So this is our time to shine here in New York. This is Belmont Week. Belmont up at Saratoga again, of course, this year, as in the second of 3 years, it's going to be up at Saratoga. There was some chatter about running it next year at Belmont Park, but I think that's going to be very, very tough to do. So we'll say it's the second of 3 years at Saratoga. It's an exciting week of racing regardless, but something about it being at Saratoga adds like this novelty and this particular brand of enthusiasm and intrigue. And it's a nice field for the Belmont. I mean, we only got 8 horses, but we got the 1, 2, 3 from the Derby coming back, and you can't ask for much more than that. Sovereignty, obviously, coming off of the Derby win, has had the 5 weeks rest, skipped the Preakness, as everyone knows. And, shout out to the connections of journalism for going after the Belmont, running in all 3 legs. Like he ran great in the first 2. He bounced out of the race. He worked actually the other day at Saratoga, 47 and 2 for a half mile. So why not? Like I love if you got a good horse, you run him. And to me, he's the horse to beat. Like I get that Sovereignty won the Derby, but to me, that was the only race that he has that really, makes him a standout in here from a figure standpoint. So I think journalism is the horse to beat. I think he drew better. He was in his 7-hole and Sovereignty is closer inside. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know what we're going to get from Baeza. Maybe he ends up being the best of this crop. Like John Sheriff's is the kind of guy whose horses get better and better, and he's already really, really good through 5 starts. He got some new shooters in Crudo for Bobby Flay and Todd Pletcher. Rodriguez is back after getting scratched from the Derby. John, not a huge field, but this is an interesting race.
Well, and you've mentioned 4 or 5 horses. You haven't even mentioned Hill Road yet, who won the Peter Pan impressively. And again, a quality road out of a Lemon Drop Kid mare should really relish the additional distance that the Belmont offers, to the horse. So I think top to bottom, maybe not to bottom. I think the first 5 horses in there, Joe, are legitimate, and I wouldn't be surprised if any of them hit the board first. I'm excited to see the ones you mentioned. Baeza, I think, again, he's not sneaking up on anybody anymore. And he overcame a lot in the Kentucky Derby, coming in, drawing in, not really knowing if they were running or not, coming in from the 19 hole and making a huge run down the stretch. Again, has a long list of siblings that he's constantly being compared to. But that being said, he's danced every dance and he's improved every single race. You got to wonder a little bit about Sovereignty as to whether or not, Joe, he improved in the slop. If it was a race where he just got better on that surface, and again, it was the first time that he had run on the slop, and he handled it extraordinarily well. There's a big question mark in my mind and in a lot of breeders' minds as far as, Into Mischief, as prolific of a sire as he's been, and he has been one of the best in our generation. No question about that. But can they handle a 1.25 miles? That's usually the Quality Roads and the Tappets of the world, the Justifies, the Curlins that can beget, sons and daughters that can go 1.25 miles. But there aren't too many Into Mischiefs that I can think of, and I was trying to do some research this morning on it, that can convincingly do 1.25 miles at this Grade 1 distance. So Sovereignty is going to be breaking some new ground, some glass ceilings, as it were. If he already
did it in the Derby.
If he wins the Belmont, yeah, I know. But again, I'm saying, I'm saying that if the slop helped him, if the slop moved him up, then can he do it on a dry? I'm sorry, I'll qualify it on a dry track. Okay.
I was going to say, did your research include the Derby?
The Derby distance, yeah, exactly. And are you thinking that the Belmont's really 1.5 miles like it usually is, and usually and should be? Yeah, yes to both. Okay, but again, you can make the case that maybe the slop improved him. I don't know. The bottom line for me is that you have 4 really solid horses in this race that'll be battling it out, and that's exciting for the Belmont. It's exciting for the people who are going to be there, and it's exciting for the industry to have this kind of a field together. And if it was a 4-horse field, I think we'd be talking just as excitedly about it. But there are a couple of latecomers in here, including Uncaged, that we didn't mention, that is kind of getting thrown in, to the deep end of the pool very, very quickly. And then you have the Euro that I, dismissed for the Preakness. I thought it was too big of an ask, but now the horse has been here for a month and maybe is acclimated a little bit better. I'm still not sure about, I know it's the daughter of the trainer, and that's why they have Safi Osborne on the horse. I'm not sure that that's necessarily what's best for the horse, but I don't own the horse, so so who am I to say as to whether or not it's the right thing to do? She's never won on the horse before. Ironically enough, she's finished second 3 times and 5th in the Preakness, and I'm sure there were a gaggle of I was going to say stallions, a gaggle of jockeys and agents that were all lobbying to have, the mount in this race. I think that would maybe give the horse a little bit better chance, but to me, it's nitpicking on something that shouldn't be picked on nits.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting that they didn't, quote unquote, upgrade the jockey for this race. I thought he ran okay in the Preakness. Like, he ran 5th. It wasn't like he didn't lift up his feet at all. I think what's interesting about this race is the pace. Like Rodriguez, you would think is going to go out to the front under Mike Smith. Crudo's got speed, but I don't know. I think Johnny's smart enough that he doesn't want to go head to head with Rodriguez. He's going to sit off and sit second a little bit. Right. Maybe Baeza gets the Garden Trip third off of those two. And if they don't want to go the 1.25 miles, he gets the jump on Journalism and Sovereignty. So I think it's an interesting race from a pace perspective. I don't want a deep closer in here. I think Hill Road and Sovereignty are going to be up against it. I don't think they're going to go that fast early on, but it's a really fascinating race. And, there's a bunch of ways to go. If I had to pick right now, I might go with Rodriguez. I think there's a chance he gets loose on the lead and keeps going like he did in the Wood Memorial. And that was a fast race. That was a 101 buyer. That wasn't like a usual bullshit Wood Memorial that doesn't produce anything. I think that's actually going to end up being a pretty key race. But I'm really looking forward to getting up there, and I had so much fun last year, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You've heard me say this before. I hope Saturday isn't that crowded. I got a couple of homies coming up too. I'm excited to see all the West Point people and the West Point partners. So it's going to be a super exciting week regardless. I just hope they don't oversell it on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorite cards of the entire year, and we're going to get into all the undercard races. But this is as good as it gets outside of the Breeders' Cup and maybe the Derby. It's a real showcase for New York racing, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the exciting stuff coming up for New York racing. But yeah, this is John. This is our week to shine here in New York, and now at Saratoga especially. It's our crown jewel for the New York racing schedule, and it's just even though we did it last year, it feels so cool to be able to go up there for Belmont Week.
Well, this is a signature weekend, and when you look at the calendar, it's almost like in the baseball season when you look for certain matchups and you say, okay, I'm going to circle this one on the calendar, and this is one of 4 weekends that I have circled on the calendar because it is a phenomenal card, and it starts on Thursday. I mean, it's a phenomenal card all the way through, and you try to look forward 4 months from now as to what these races are going to whether or not they're going to be important or not. And historically they are. Historically they're important stepping stones for a lot of horses that go on to the Breeders' Cup races. So this is definitely an exciting one. I'm really looking forward to the fact that you have so many great cards, so many great horses on so many different surfaces and distances also. And we'll go into that in a little bit, Joe. But now what about as far as the rain that could potentially be coming in on Saturday? How do you think that's going to affect the crowds more so than the racing?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I don't know that we're going to get a ton of rain, but yeah, maybe it'll keep some folks away. I think what's interesting is from a handicapping perspective, because this is its own meet. I think you gotta kind of tread lightly tomorrow. Tomorrow being Wednesday, we're recording this on Tuesday. I think you got to kind of see how the track is playing because it's not obviously the tracks can change even at meets where they've been racing for weeks and months, but this is its own unique thing where nobody has any idea. The Saratoga main track hasn't been used in 9 months, so it's a total mystery as to how it's going to play. And I think that's something that if you are handicapping this weekend, you are playing, I would say tread lightly on Wednesday. I'm telling myself this at the same time. Please, Joe, please, for the love of God, tread lightly on Wednesday. Save some money for the weekend. But yeah, I think that's going to be key and seeing how the track plays. And I think a lot of times Saratoga, especially early in the meet, can play kindly to speed. Yeah. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure.